this doesn't end well. Look, if you've invested in silver and gold over the last few years, you know what pain feels like. You know what frustration feels like. But what's the one big factor that will influence the price of silver, will influence the price of gold as we head into the coming years? Let's not talk about days, months, even quarters. Let's go out years, 1 year, 3 year, 5 years from now. What's the one big factor that is downright scary that we all need to recognize that will have a major impact on the precious metals prices? Guys, it's not a pleasant story, especially for those of us that live in the United States, but it's the fiscal situation in the United States. That's right. Now, we have $33 trillion of debt. I heard Peter Grandage say recently that when he first got into this business, if you talked about trillions, it was a number that you couldn't even fathom. And now we have $33 trillion in debt. On top of that, add on the fact that our government is spending more money every single year than it brings in revenue. This year alone, we have a deficit of almost $1 trillion. Where does that go? Well, that gets added onto the already humongous $33 trillion debt that we're holding right now. So this debt pile that we have, instead of being whittled down, is continuing to expand. And when you look at a chart of how it's grown just over the last 10 years, even just the last 5 years, it is alarming. But there's one more big key component to all this that makes it just like a spiral of doom. There's no other way to say it. Yeah, I don't like it. You don't like it. But we got to pull our heads out of the sand and recognize what's going on. And that is the interest expense. It costs money to hold all that debt. The U.S. Treasury bond, the yields are going up and up and up. And that makes the expense, the interest expense that our government has to pay on all that debt, it continues to go up and up and up. Now, where it gets frightening, more frightening, is the fact that that higher level of interest, and now there are estimates that within the next year, we're going to be way above $1 trillion a year in interest expense alone. Guess where that interest expense goes? Yes, that's right. It finds its way back into the debt pile. So the debt pile grows even more, which makes the future interest expense grow even more, which again then gets added back onto the debt pile. Can you see? It's like a snowball rolling downhill. Unfortunately, in the case of the United States, the snowball's already maybe halfway down the hill, maybe 2/3 of the way down the hill. Who knows? But at the end of the day, this cannot work, and it's going to create a situation where eventually the value of the U.S. dollar is going to go down, down, down. And we know what will happen to the price of gold and to the price of silver when that occurs. Yes, it will hold its value. So as measured in U.S. dollar terms, we can expect a period of time where we're going to have much higher prices. Do you think that the politicians are going to come through and fix this situation? Do you think they're going to actually balance the budget? It doesn't appear so. All the estimates are saying that we could be at $50 trillion in debt, within the next 5-10 years? These are numbers that are just absolutely not sustainable. And you don't have to be a Harvard-trained economist to see that eventually this leads to ruin. It would be like you leading your household with an income of $80,000 a year with a massive pile of debt, but you continue to spend way more money than you earn every year, so you are adding to your debt, and the interest expense, the interest rate that you're paying on your debt is going up, up, up. You can see on an individual basis, an individual family household basis, how this isn't sustainable. Look, The same laws apply to countries. Sure, the Federal Reserve and Jerome Powell can temporarily print money and make it look like it's all okay, but the reality is that's just a monetary mirage. Eventually, other countries, and we're seeing this right now with the BRICS countries, they recognize, hey, this is imaginary. This is not real what they're doing over here. We're done with it. We want to have our own currency. Oh, and by the way, we kind of like the idea of backing our own reserve currency, our own trade currency, tethering it, right? Basing it upon something like gold is what they're discussing. We'll know real soon if they follow through with what they're projecting, or many people are projecting they will do, which is start their own currency, their own BRICS currency, which will be backed by gold, backed by real assets. Look, I was born in America. I love this country. I don't love what the politicians have done. I don't love what our leaders have done. Maybe I could even say, in particular, the central bankers have done. They've put us in a position, you and I, and our children and grandchildren, where things look very precarious as we look out into the coming months, quarters, and years. I hate to say this, but we've almost gotten to a point where it's irreversible, right? The debt to GDP ratios are at levels where no other country in history has ever come back. And we don't want to think about doom and gloom and very difficult times ahead. But if we look at history, if we look at other countries that have been through the same situation, all the other fiat, paper-based currencies that have been created throughout history, when governments get desperate and start to dilute their currency, it has never ended well. Hey, I think it'd be great if we get some politicians in Washington that actually do want to balance the budget, actually do want to make the hard decisions. It'd be good for us, it'd be good for our kids, and good for our grandkids. But I don't foresee that happening. That's why I invest in precious metal mining stocks, and I like to hold some physical silver because I want to protect my family. I think, most likely, you're very similar to me. We want a level of security. There's a saying, right? If you don't hold it, you don't own it. But there's another saying that when you own precious metals, you are your own central bank. Does that resonate with you? If you hold some physical silver, do you feel like there's no counterparty risk? You're not relying upon anyone, either from a business perspective, a contract perspective, a political perspective, any perspective. When you hold some physical metal, you are acting as your own central bank. Look, I don't think this ends well. Mathematically speaking, the situation that the United States has gotten itself into is very precarious. I issue a warning, just my opinion, right? But I don't see that we're going to get out of this without a high level of pain, right? Either now or later. And since the politicians don't want to deal with any pain now, which in the long run would probably be best for the country, we're probably going to experience that pain a little bit later. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll figure out some magical Wizard of Oz way to deliver us through, never have a recession again. My fear is, we may never have a recession again. We could potentially go straight to a depression. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. As always, thank you for joining me here in the basement.